We received a report. I need to see some ID. I live here. I'm cleaning my car in my driveway. Just comply and this will be finished quickly.
The quiet that followed lasted precisely 6 seconds. But during those 6 seconds, Officer Trevor Castellano felt his entire reality collapse. The individual he had just ordered to cooperate, the man he had mentally labeled as someone who looked like he didn't belong, was not simply a civilian. He was a 15-year veteran officer. He was a highly decorated sergeant. And starting 3 weeks earlier, he had become Castellano's direct supervisor in the East Division Patrol Unit. This was no longer a routine service call Castellano could document and forget. This was about to become a career-ending interaction that would later be analyzed in police academies for years. And Castellano's own body camera was capturing every word spoken. Trevor Castellano had served with the department for 4 years. He was 28 years old, married, and considered himself a reliable officer. He was raised in a predominantly white suburban community, located about 30 miles from the city, where he now worked. His father had been in law enforcement, and Castellano had always intended to follow the same path. He completed police academy training, graduated around the middle of his class rankings, and was assigned to the East Division. His employment record showed 14 commendations recognizing solid police performance. He had completed several successful arrests, assisted in community outreach events, and supervisors consistently rated him as capable and dependable. However, there was another part of Castellano's file that had never been fully addressed. During his 4-year career, he had received 9 citizen complaints accusing him of racial profiling or inappropriate behavior. All 9 complaints were filed by Black or Latino residents. All 9 were investigated and ultimately labeled unfounded or lacking sufficient evidence. Those complaints were reviewed by his former supervisor, Lieutenant Vernon Kowalski, who was known for strongly defending his officers and often dismissing civilian complaints as attempts to avoid legitimate law enforcement actions. Kowalski retired 6 months earlier. The new supervisor assigned to Castellano's unit came from another division, someone Castellano had never worked under before. That supervisor was Darnell Whitmore. Darnell Whitmore was 38 years old and had served 15 years in the department. He started as a patrol officer, advanced to detective work, and later transitioned into leadership. His record was exceptional, including 2 Medal of Valor recognitions for actions during active threats, dozens of solved investigations, and a reputation for being strict but fair. Whitmore had also spent the previous 5 years living in the Riverside neighborhood, one of the more affluent parts of the city. His residence was a well-maintained 3-bedroom craftsman-style house with a detached garage and a modest front yard. The area was largely white, upper-middle class, and quiet. Whitmore moved there with his wife and 2 daughters. He appreciated the neighborhood, strong schools, low crime rates, and friendly residents. When he moved in, he introduced himself to everyone on the street. Most neighbors welcomed him warmly. A few appeared surprised to see a Black family moving into the area, but Whitmore had experienced similar reactions before. He focused on being a respectful neighbor and ignored anything else. That Saturday morning in November, Whitmore was off duty. He decided to clean his car, a dark blue sedan that needed attention after several rainy days. He parked in the driveway, brought out a bucket and sponge, and started washing. The weather was ideal, mid-60-degree temperature, sunshine, and a mild breeze. Whitmore wore jeans, a gray t-shirt, and worn sneakers. He had earbuds in, listening to music while working. He was relaxed, enjoying his day off, thinking about taking his daughters to the park later. He never heard the patrol car stop behind him. Castellano was driving through Riverside during routine patrol when dispatch radioed about a suspicious individual reported in the 2400 block of Maple Street. The caller, who remained anonymous, said a Black male was behaving suspiciously near vehicles. Castellano responded that he would investigate. He drove toward Maple Street and scanned for anyone matching the description. That was when he saw Whitmore in the driveway washing his vehicle. Castellano made several rapid assumptions. First, he assumed Whitmore did not live there. The neighborhood seemed too upscale and expensive. Second, he assumed Whitmore might be scouting cars to break into. Third, he assumed this was the suspicious individual mentioned by dispatch. Castellano never considered Whitmore might be the homeowner. He never considered that washing a car in your own driveway on a Saturday morning is not suspicious behavior. He never considered contacting dispatch for more detailed information. Instead, he exited his patrol vehicle and approached with his hand resting on his service weapon. Before continuing, "Where are you watching from?" Leave your country or state in the comments. And if you value stories exposing the reality of racial profiling, even inside law enforcement, please subscribe now. What happens next may shock you. Whitmore didn't notice Castellano approaching until the officer was about 10 feet away. He removed one earbud and turned. He saw a uniformed officer walking toward him with a serious look and a hand near his weapon. Whitmore initially assumed something had happened nearby, possibly a burglary or accident. He shut off the hose and walked toward Castellano, expecting a professional conversation between two officers, even though Castellano did not recognize him yet. But Castellano's opening words were not professional. They were an accusation disguised as a request. He stated they received a call about someone who didn't look like they belonged and demanded identification. Whitmore felt the statement hit like a physical blow. Someone who didn't look like they belonged. Not someone suspected of a crime. Not someone matching criminal behavior. Just someone who looked out of place. Whitmore remained calm and stated the obvious. He lived there. He was washing his car in his own driveway. It should have ended there. But Castellano didn't apologize or reconsider. He simply told Whitmore to cooperate, and this would end quickly, as if Whitmore was causing difficulty, as if existing as a black man in a white neighborhood required police compliance. Whitmore asked quietly, "You're really going to do this?" It wasn't only about the ID demand. It was about whether Castellano was truly about to engage in obvious racial profiling. Castellano replied by telling Whitmore not to make this harder than necessary. The meaning was clear: comply, don't question authority, don't assert rights. Whitmore then made his decision. He identified himself by name and rank, stating he was sure Castellano would recognize the name, though Castellano clearly didn't. Whitmore asked for Castellano's badge number and told him he was in serious trouble. Bodycam footage captured Castellano's expression, changing from confidence to shock. His mouth opened but no words came out. His hand dropped from near his weapon. He stepped backward involuntarily. Whitmore allowed the silence to sit briefly, then calmly asked again for Castellano's badge number. Castellano, still shaken, responded, 2847. Whitmore then asked Castellano to explain what reasonable suspicion justified stopping someone washing a car in their own driveway. What specifically justified this stop? Castellano attempted to recover. He said he received a suspicious person call. Whitmore asked what the call specifically said. Castellano repeated that someone didn't look like they belonged. Whitmore pressed further. What criminal behavior was reported? Castellano had no answer that did not involve race. He had not been informed of a crime. He had not observed suspicious behavior. He had simply been told someone didn't look like they belonged and saw a black man washing a car. Whitmore asked if Castellano verified the address. He hadn't. Asked if he requested more details from dispatch. He hadn't. Asked if he observed criminal behavior before approaching. He hadn't. Whitmore then asked the question that became central to the investigation. Was the only reason for the stop the fact Whitmore was a black man in a mostly white neighborhood? Castellano denied it, claiming he was responding to a call. Whitmore asked again, what exactly was suspicious? Castellano could not explain without implying race. Castellano tried redirecting the situation, again telling Whitmore to cooperate. Whitmore responded coldly, cooperation is not legal justification for detention. Officers need reasonable suspicion. Castellano could not provide it. The interaction lasted another 6 minutes. Whitmore calmly walked Castellano through every mistake, every policy violation, every constitutional issue. He explained that not looking like you belong is not reasonable suspicion. Being black in a white neighborhood is not suspicion. Anonymous calls without criminal details do not justify stops. Quick question for viewers. If you have ever been profiled by police while doing nothing wrong, type "it happens" in the comments. Let's show how common it is. Castellano tried minimizing his actions, claiming he was doing his job. Whitmore explained doing your job means investigating properly, not acting on racial assumptions. Castellano said the caller seemed concerned. Whitmore asked concerned about what specifically. Castellano could not answer beyond not belonging. Castellano said officers sometimes must make quick decisions. Whitmore responded quick decisions based on race are still unconstitutional. By the end, Castellano knew he was in serious trouble. Whitmore ordered him back to the station to report to the watch commander and informed him a formal complaint and internal investigation would be filed. Both Bodycam and Whitmore's phone recorded everything. Castellano returned to the station in shock. He had effectively threatened to arrest his own supervisor. And it was all documented. The watch commander was already waiting. Whitmore had called ahead. Castellano was immediately placed on administrative leave. His badge and firearm were taken. He was told not to discuss the case. The investigation began immediately. Internal Affairs assigned 2 senior investigators. They reviewed bodycam footage first. The video was damaging. Castellano's words were clear. Whitmore calmly explained he lived there. Castellano still demanded cooperation. Investigators pulled Castellano's file and found the 9 complaints. Now they saw context, not isolated incidents, but a pattern. Whitmore gave a detailed statement, explaining he had experienced profiling before as a civilian, but experiencing it from a fellow officer while off duty was deeply disturbing. It raised questions about Castellano's judgment. Investigators interviewed Castellano 3 days later. Castellano said he responded to a call. Investigators noted the call included no specific location or crime. Castellano said he made a judgment call. Investigators asked why he assumed Whitmore matched the call. Castellano said the caller said someone didn't belong. When pressed on meaning, Castellano could not explain beyond race. They asked what he meant by telling Whitmore to cooperate. Castellano claimed de-escalation. Investigators explained demanding ID without cause as escalation. They asked if knowing Whitmore was a sergeant would have changed his behavior. Castellano said probably. That answer revealed everything. The investigation reviewed the original dispatch call. The anonymous caller said a black male didn't look like he belonged and was acting suspiciously. No address. No crime details. Only race and vague language. This is a classic example of bias-driven suspicious calls. Officers are trained to verify, not react blindly. Castellano failed to verify, failed to observe, and acted on assumption. Investigators also discovered Castellano responded to suspicious person calls 40% more often than peers, and 87% involved people of color. The investigation lasted 7 weeks. 23 interviews were conducted. 14 hours of bodycam reviewed. 4 years of dispatch and reports analyzed. Findings were clear. Castellano violated policy, conducted a stop without reasonable suspicion, and made race-based assumptions. Investigators interviewed 8 of 9 prior complainants. Stories matched. Stops without cause. ID demands without legal justification. Aggressive tone without reason. The pattern was undeniable. The recommendation was termination. The union fought it, arguing he responded to a call. The department responded simply. If he would profile his own sergeant, what was he doing to civilians? Castellano was terminated 9 weeks later. Appeal denied. Career over at 28. But consequences spread wider. The department reviewed complaint handling under Kowalski. Of 127 complaints he handled, 94 involved discrimination or force. He sustained only 3. Rear review showed misconduct patterns in many cases. New reforms were introduced. Internal Affairs handling profiling complaints, quarterly stop data review, random bodycam audits, civilian review board authority, expanded bias training, and early warning systems for officer behavior patterns. Whitmore helped develop new training. Officers watched bodycam examples. Trainers asked what reasonable suspicion existed. The answer was none. Whitmore also began mentoring officers of color and advocating for fair internal treatment. The incident revealed bias even inside law enforcement culture. The story gained media attention. The bodycam video went viral. Millions watched. People shared their own profiling experiences. Castellano gave one interview, saying he was treated unfairly and was just doing his job. He never apologized. 6 months later, he left the state and took construction work. His wife filed for divorce. Whitmore remained in service and was promoted to lieutenant 3 years later. He still lives on Maple Street. Still washes his car Saturdays. Now patrol officers wave when they drive by. The incident became a national case study on racial profiling, policy enforcement, and accountability. The lesson is simple. Assuming someone doesn't belong because of race is discrimination. Eventually, patterns surface and consequences follow. Castellano thought he was investigating suspicion. Instead, he exposed his own bias. The footage is still used in training nationwide. It shows the exact moment a career ends and accountability begins. If this story changed how you see racial profiling, share it. Subscribe for more accountability stories. Comment what you learned. Your engagement helps these stories reach people who need to see them. Thanks for watching until the end.